there, welcome back and happy Saturday. So there are several topics I did want to discuss in little morsels throughout this channel as I mentioned before, and a lot of them pertain to my high-functioning autism or Asperger's as I mentioned before. And there's a lot of little nooks and crannies to explore within that diagnosis. And one thing that I think takes place within that diagnosis, like one of those little nuances, is my obsession with masks. I believe they're connected. It could just be a neurotypical thing, I'm not sure. But ever since I was a little kid, I was always obsessed with masks. And I've been trying to figure out why throughout my entire life. Like even today, even if I'm playing a video game, I'm always wearing a mask. I don't care about facial customization. I want something on my head for whatever reason. And as a kid, I was really obsessed with this one specific mask that we'll talk about in a few moments. That just almost called to me. Like, if I ever saw the mask, I had to get my hands on it because I kept moving into the attic, and into my closet, then in the basement. I just liked hopping around. So one day when I finally had a hold of this mask, I'm like, I'm never letting it go. And I guess that's kind of where it started. So first I'm going to talk about why I believe masks are so important to me and my philosophy behind them. And second, I'm going to show you some of my masks. I've got a slathering of all of them. I have about maybe 20 total. I've got gas masks, Halloween masks, Star Wars masks, but I wanted to show you my customized ones that are more personal to me, and sort of explain like how they came about, how I made them, why I made them. So this one might be a little bit longer. But pretty much I've got a variety of philosophies as to why I love masks so much. I think the first thing is, perhaps I prefer them more than human faces. I've always described masks as more honest than a human face, because with people, you know, you can put on a poker face, you can hide your intentions, and it's hard to read people. And I assume, like, some people who are on the autistic spectrum, it's harder for them to read a human face, figure out what someone is trying to say without them talking, you know what I mean? So when you are wearing a mask, or rather, when you choose a mask, you are choosing a face which has built-in intentions. So, in that way, a mask is more honest. You see someone with a mask, whether it be on Halloween or whatever, you know what they're about, because it's a face that they chose. And a second philosophy I have, and this is something we can go more into depth on its own one day, is I always believe that artwork, writing, whatever have you, it has volume, and that if you have certain feelings or emotions or ideas in your head, you can put them into a certain piece, whether it be written or physical, and then you can put that piece away, or you can wear it, or you can take it off, or whatever, and that allows you to take those thoughts and put them to the side. So these objects have volume, they contain the way that you're feeling. And masks are a really good way of doing that. That's why I have so many custom-made masks, because maybe I'm feeling a certain way in a certain moment of time, and what I want to do is fill the mask in with those feelings, and then put it away, and I can continue with my life. That's one of those little traditions that I have for myself. And the third thing is masks actually take a very big part within my storytelling. I am a storyteller. I love writing stories unpublished, like nothing has been officiated. It's at the very least on copyright, but that's sort of what these charcoal drawings back here are for. I have over 100 drawings and several masks, which I'm about to show off now, which pertain to what I call Sanctus Insanitus, which is effectively a collection of all my poetry, philosophy, stories, artwork, so on and so forth, that's been collecting for the past roughly 10 years, pretty much. So it's a pretty expansive collection, and masks are one of the poster boys of that project. So that being said, let me show you some masks. I have a lot of them. I'm not going to put them all on because some of them, it can be a hassle. Most of them are display pieces and I don't want to ruin them. But the first one, this is the mask I was talking about before. It kept eluding me. And as a kid, I was not really a beggar. I wasn't a kid who, like, really asked their parents or pried them to get something for me. Like, I'm like, I really want that toy, or I really need to get that. This is one of those few times where I actually begged my father to get me something. We were in some sort of Halloween outlet in a mall, you know, temporary, like it pops up for an October, then it's gone. But there was one mask I saw For some reason, I just absolutely had to have that mask. And this was probably around 2007, something like that. And I kept begging him for it. I wouldn't leave the store without it. And he got it for me. And this is it, right over here. So this is what I call the Apex Amist mask, and I know you have no idea what that means. That's fine. We'll talk about that another time. The Apex Amist is a character that I created in my stories, who's effectively a sort of cult leader type of character, and this is the mask that inspired it. I think it was marketed as a jester mask. There's a whole bunch of variants of this, but mine is unique because I've customized it throughout the years. I painted it in silver. I repainted pretty much the whole thing. He also has new eye sockets as well as nostrils that are more breathable along within the mouth. You can't really notice on camera, but there's a more porous cloth so I could breathe out of that. There's even a zipper that I added on the back from an old backpack, so I can zip that closed if I so desire, so that's very nice. The only thing that really sucks about this mask is it's basically unwearable, because when I put it on, I can't see because I have to have my glasses off. If I have my glasses on, they fog up very quickly. And also the moisture balance is really terrible, so you get a lot of that condensation sleeking against the inside of the mask. So aesthetically, it's my favorite mask, story-wise as well, but it's not a fun time to wear. I don't think I've ever shared that story, but yeah, it's for display purposes only. I pretty much never put this thing on. The next mask I want to talk about is one that I did wear publicly because a certain event transpired in 2020, of course being COVID, and everyone was required to wear masks. So that kind of fits in the philosophy of, oh, now that we don't have our human faces anymore, you got to use your words to really tell people what your intentions are. So I don't know, I keep going on about that, but I actually wore this mask before quarantine during my freshman year of college, just for weather, just for avoiding the elements and all of that. And I modified it from just like a basic balaclava to actually fit around my face. I gave it elastic and everything. This is what I call my Night Watcher mask, hence the title of the damn channel, right? So that's where it comes from. This is a mask that I got off of Facebook. I'll never do that again because I realize the Facebook Marketplace is a little bit shady, but I really like this skull wolf mask I got from some company, don't even remember what it's called, but I trimmed it down, wrapped it around a quarantine mask, did some really shoddy sewing work, and I also have this plastic inlay to give it a little bit more of a shape. I still wear it to this day. Very good for avoiding rain, snow, cold air. So it's still very useful. It's the most practical mask that I have. It's the only one that I actually wear in public if the time or season calls for it. The next one I have, this is probably the one that took me the longest to make. I made this when I first moved into my apartment. This is what I call the gunk mask. So I got this over here. This is a highly repainted and a little bit re-sculpted airsoft mask, or paintball mask, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know why I built it. I just really wanted to build a new mask. Maybe I just felt like I really had the drive to make something. Like sometimes I just feel like I need to be putting something together or I go totally nuts. And this came out of that fit one day. So it was a really interesting process. I used a lot of stencils and masking tape so I could get all the shapes right, get it as symmetrical as possible. Use some spray paint, use a little bit of paint marker. I even got those little red lines in there. Those are a newer edition that came along a little bit later. And also another fun thing, it lights up. If I can hit the switch, maybe. There we go. So it lights up in the cheeks right there. And when you're wearing it, the light actually funnels into the mouth, which is really cool. So this is just a really fun mask. I once wore it around town during Halloween, and the kids loved it. The adults hated it, but I really dig this one. I also love all the screws that are in there. So yeah, those are my, like, what I call my main 3 masks, but I still have some other ones over here to show you. This one I built when I first got my job. I don't remember why. Again, I think I just needed a project to do. This is my Keep Sane mask, and it literally says it right there. Keep Sane. It might be backwards on the camera, but when I'm editing the footage, it should be fine. But this one actually lights up too, though the batteries are dead. It needs to be charged. It's got, like, this old LED quarantine mask in there, so I can actually charge it. There's a port right in there, so I can just plug in a charger, charge it up, and you can change it to whatever color you want, which is really neat. Actually, when I got this mask, it was missing a few parts, so I needed almost this epoxy to fill in some of the gaps, wrap up some of the teeth, and it looks a lot better. Issue with it, though, it is quite small, and it's a little awkward that you kind of gotta string it to the back of your head. So, but I like the paint job that I gave it. If you haven't noticed, silver, red, and black is kind of my thing. So there you go. Oh, I also forgot to mention that with the gunk mask, you can also give it this pair of goggles, which I got specifically for Halloween, and they look really badass together. Probably really good for skiing, too. The next one I wanted to show off, I built this one, I think, a few Halloweens ago. This is what I call my death metal mask for obvious reasons. It was a standard skull, got it at a Walgreens, and I tricked it out, like, all the way. So, gave it a silver paint job, painted the red A for anarchy on there, because I love anarchy, it's just kind of my thing. And then the teeth say, eat your state, which I really love. Down here you have blood dribble, but that is actually an upside down city horizon, which I really love. They got the flag down there. Yeah, I also found this metal piece of scrap just lying around the street one day, and I picked it up and I glued it in there, spray painted it red. So it's got a little asymmetry in there with the eye. And lastly, I punched in a whole bunch of screws. So this thing is actually a little bit dangerous. You could probably whack someone in the face with it and damage them severely. Actually, on my main mask display that I got in front of me, you can't see it right now. Sometimes I open the door, this thing tends to just fall right down, and it causes quite the loud crash. So I really like that it's got a lot of weight to it. But yeah, I don't wear this one much, just for looks, but I dig it. It's really cool. It's got the mannequin head under there too as well. The last ones I have, these ones are actually made completely from scratch. There was no base done whatsoever, except for the fact that I had a foam mannequin head to use as a face to lie the clay over, so that way I could make them. And all three of these in the series are actually part of Sanctus and Sanitus. They belong to particular characters within the Xamist cult, so I did want to show those off. The first one is the Moonlight Mask, which I really love. Kind of gives me Ultron vibes when I think about it. This mask, along with the other two, actually, I designed them years ago on paper, but I wanted them in physical form. So here's the first Moonlight Mask, and the reason why they're called that is because these masks are typically made at night, and in the story, they're mass-produced for the Xamist. So this is the most common type of mask that you would see a Xamist wearing. So this one was really fun to do, and actually if you've seen my action figure review channel, the eyes and the mouth cloth is made from the cloth that's used on the capes for Batman figures, but I didn't like those capes, so I used them here instead. So it's somewhat visible to see through them. They are a little small, but I do have this chain that does allow it to hang on the back of your head, and it does work, so that's pretty neat. The next one I made is the Laura mask, and she is one of the most ferocious characters in the stories I write. This one is quite small. It's a half mask, so that's why it's just a mouth and a nose. Then you have the two eyes, which would be visible up here. And it's a little smaller. It gave it more of a worn gunmetal. I thought that would look pretty neat. It's almost got this Jason Voorhees kind of graded mouth, I guess. A little hockey mask-ish. So, yeah, this one was pretty neat to do. And I also used a different type of cloth for the nose and the mouth to make her vary a little bit more. And the last one I have, actually one of her companions in the story is Grave Wills, who we have over here, and this was the most advanced to do. Looks a little better in person, honestly. It's a little bit asymmetrical on camera, but I even gave this one a little bit of blood, pertains to the story a little bit more. Obviously, this guy waves a different flag, so it's done in gold. I actually prefer silver, but not this character. He prefers gold. And in the original sketches, he had hands prying away at the eyes and at the mouth, almost like it was peeling them apart. Don't really have a reason for that. I just thought that aesthetically looked really cool. Actually, drew a whole bunch of Xamist masks in one picture, and I plucked from those ones I liked best, and those became the key characters, being Grave Wills, then you got Laura over here, and both of them are pretty much the hands of the Apex Xamist over here. So they're kind of a trinity, if you will. So that was really fun to do, and that being said, those are all my masks. I don't, to this day, I have theories of why I love masks so much, which are potentially correct, but for some reason, I just love collecting them. I love customizing them. They're just one of my things, you know, like when you're autistic, you got a thing or several things that you're just obsessed with, and I don't get masks all the time because they do take up quite a bit of room. They take up a lot of space, so I'm very selective about them. I try to make it a mandate for myself where if I'm ever going to get something, especially since I'm a renter, that if I buy something, there needs to be an objective when I get it. I can't just get it to have it. I need to turn it into something, make it more special, personalize, turn it into a project effectively. So That was a plan with those guys, and that's what happened. So I'm going to put them back around my humble abode where they are meant to be displayed. And with that, that's pretty much the end of the video. No real ending catharsis here, just a little exploration of my crazy little mind, and I hope you learned a few things. So I don't know what it was worth, but there you go. That's my little explanation on masks for you. So hope you enjoyed.